Welcome to today's show. I'm Jim McCann, and I'm thrilled to be joined by Andreas Welsch. Andreas is an AI strategist, educator, and an author of the AI Leadership Handbook, a best-selling book now. And Andreas spent more than 2 decades at SAP, a famous German software company that runs pretty much the world, and now helps companies like Fortune 500 companies turn AI hype into real business outcomes. And today I'm joined by Henry Morey. Henry's a fellow who recently joined, when I say recently, this year, joined 1-800-Flowers. And I know you have a point of view, Andreas, on the title of Chief AI Officer, but in effect, that's what Henry joined 1-800-Flowers to be. But in the months that since then, he's expanded his responsibilities in a bunch of different ways, and we're really looking to Henry to learn all he can about AI and help us as a company embrace it, deploy it, and understand it in every way possible. So when I had the real honor and treat to get to chat with you today, I asked Henry to join us because I got to find out what you smart guys know.
That's awesome. Hey, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure being on the show.
Our treat. Andreas, tell us a little bit about your background. Obviously, you are not a native American because you sound like you have a South Brooklyn accent, but I understand you grew up in Germany. When did you migrate to the U.S.?
Yeah, so I moved to the US in 2010 as part of a work assignment. And back then, it was all about helping our subsidiary in Delaware get closer to our corporate strategy in Europe and what Germany decided. And I built a very good relationship with the team over here. So it made sense to help bring the team closer together by being here for a few years.
Now, young people in school today have an opportunity to study AI. You didn't because there wasn't any course material. How did you learn the technology, and how did you become so expert in it that you became a leading advocate and thought leader within SAP on how they, as this giant company, should be thinking about using, deploying, and helping their clients to do things better, faster, quicker?
So the thing that's been driving me from my early career days has been starting something and seeing it grow, seeing it scale, and seeing it expand. And throughout my work during my corporate career, I've had the pleasure of working with many Fortune 100s, Fortune 500s, and helping them on their journey. But that wasn't always successful, and for different reasons, right? Reasons that we now see in reports when we hear 80%, 85%, 95% of AI projects fail. And it's rarely just because of technology. It's usually because there are people, and we're not paying enough attention to people, how people work, how work changes for them when we bring very powerful technology to the business. So that's been what's been driving me to help others who are now following in these footsteps, trying to figure out what do we do with AI on that path to be more successful, to be on the 20%, to be on the 50%, 15% side of success rather than the 80 or 85% that don't deliver.
Andreas, you took about a pretty big project in writing the book, the AI Handbook,
Yeah.
and I see that you did 60 plus expert interviews. The book is 258 pages of real world advice. What I really like is that the audiobook was narrated by an AI voice. I thought that
Hmm.
was clever, eat your own cooking there. And
Exactly. Yeah.
so, what was the project like? Why'd you say, "Hey, we need this"? All your clients were having the same questions. So, wait a minute, I can answer my clients' questions and a whole lot of other people's if I just put myself to the task of writing this big and important book.
That's one of the big motivations. But like I said, many organizations, many leaders are going through this struggle right now. They're getting a lot of questions, a lot of pressure from their boards. They're also getting questions from their employees. Can we use AI? How can we use it? Can we not just use more of it? And what I've seen is a lot of times, if you just chase that shiny object of AI without a real tangible example or tying it to your business strategy, those projects end as pilots, and you end up on that 85% side of
The failure
unsuccessful
rate, yeah.
projects. So right? So my mission was to share what I found from these different interviews and what I've learned throughout my career, and make that available as a practical guide. Not something that is too inspirational, too aspirational, but something that you can actually take and apply in your business as you're reading this. And towards the end of last year, the book had been out for about 3 months. I started getting more questions. Hey, do you have an audiobook? I would love to read it and learn it, basically, but I don't have the time to read it as a paperback or as an ebook. But if you had an audiobook, that'd be great. So I started exploring what's possible today. And interestingly enough, a few providers already allowed you as an author to create a synthetic voice,
Uh-huh.
like your voice clone with the help of AI.
Yeah,
And
when
how
you
far
plot that out,
advanced are
it's
we?
moving quickly.
Yeah,
And I think the
it's insane.
starting
Yeah.
gun for the general population, Henry, as you pointed out, was November of 2022 when ChatGPT was first released to the public. It seems to be the shot heard around the world. Just this morning, I was listening to an address that John Gray, the CEO of Blackstone, gave to his investors. I guess it's within the last month or so. And it was terrific. And he spoke about the impacts of AI and how they, as an investment firm, are looking at where to invest. He did a very clever thing around picks and shovels, and he did he showed a commercial of a couple of fellows who were the pick and shovel sellers back in the 1800s in the San Francisco area, and uh, and then he showed another commercial. It looked very much the same. I couldn't tell the difference, but the point he made was the first commercial they did they shot there in the west of the U.S., and they had to hire actors and people on location
Hmm.
and rent hotel rooms, and it cost about $1 million to do that. It was no more than 30-second commercial. The second one, he said, we did here on the 8th floor of this building with 2 guys, and it took a couple of hours. So the point he made was big changes coming. There were 2 points there. One is pick and shovels as an investment area around AI, and I asked to both of you, where are the investment opportunities around AI besides data centers and AI software companies or chip manufacturers? Those are the 3 obvious. But, the other implied question there is, and something that you've written a lot about and spoken a lot about, Andreas, is the impact on the creative process. Marketing production, creative production, copywriting, photography. I know that one big company we all purchase from spends more than $1 billion a year just on photography. And they are hell-bent on eliminating that $1 billion expense in the next 24 months by shifting everything to a very digitized AI processes. So if you want to sell a
Hmm.
couch on that platform, instead of shipping the couch to one of their photography centers around the world, you'll ship them the digital image, and they'll change the color. They'll insert people sitting on the couch. They'll change the room setting, all of which will be done with AI tools. So, Henry, your day job is to help this company and this set of companies get more efficient, produce better outcomes for our customers. And further in the conversation, the presentation that John Gray spoke about, he spoke about 2 areas that he's seeing immediate impact on. One is the job openings for computer programmers is declining quite precipitously, and the second area is in contact centers, service centers. Andreas, before we turn to Henry, who's got his knees into it in a practical sense, what's your sense of where the 2 things, where are the job opportunities? How is the creative process gonna be impacted? Where are the job threats? And you're in the business of educating young people. Near term, what do you see in terms of marketing, job impacts, and areas for investment?
So there's a lot to unpack. Um, I would say the opportunities that AI presents are real. You've given some great examples. From my own experience creating the audiobook with my synthetic voice, I've been using image generators for a long time, tweaking prompts, seeing what can you generate. Now we have OpenAI Sora 2 video generation tool and model and platform available. And first of all, there are new questions coming up too. And that is, hey, if we can generate something that looks as if it were real, but it's not, who does the responsibility fall to do the responsible thing
Yes.
and only use it for good intents, right?
Mhm.
That's one big part. not to misconceive, not to disinform, things like that, which obviously, like many technologies, they're neutral. It depends on what you use them for. Now, for the creative process, I have a very strong point of view on that. And that is, if you write something, if you create something and it's attributed to you and you publish it in your name, you first of all better make sure that it's factually correct, that it's accurate, that you know what you write about. There's some interesting studies um, by the MIT that came out earlier this year. Students who used ChatGPT exclusively to do the homework and do the writing retain very, very little knowledge of the subject and what was actually written about. Those that use it to create an outline and then write themselves have a better understanding and grasp of the subject matter. And those that don't use AI and create everything themselves, they retain the most knowledge. You can apply the same findings and transfer them to business as well. And I think that's the big opportunity and the big challenge in businesses too. So lately, you might have seen a term called work slop emerge, or AI slop. And what that means is somebody uses AI to create a draft or to create a document, a report, what have you, and sends it to you. Says, "Hey, here's my work product. Take a look." And you start reading this, right? And as you read in this transformative age of AI, right, and you hear all the superlatives and platitudes and whatnot, and the longer M dashes that sometimes give it away that it might have been AI created. And you start wondering, well, why are you sending this to me? Didn't you spend another 10 minutes, 15 minutes, or what have you, reviewing this and adding your own input to this?
Mm-hmm.
Is this even right? Or did you just put a prompt in there and then send it over? So there's a lot that we need to do in businesses as leaders to educate our teams. On one hand, yes, I want you to use AI. I want you to use it, and I empower you to use it. It's perfectly fine. It's the new normal that we all are, going to warm up to and become more familiar with. But at the same time, we need to maintain a high quality of what good work actually looks like. Doesn't matter if you use AI, if you do it yourself, or if you work with a team. The bar is the same ideally, but reinforcing that.
This year, Smile Farms gathers for our 10th annual gala here in New York City at the Ziegfeld Ballroom. It's a wonderful time to celebrate 10 years of creating wonderful work and job opportunities and brighter futures. I invite you to join us. Visit smilefarms.org to be part of this wonderful celebration. Help us prepare for the work that lies ahead. Henry, if you were a betting man, and I know you are, where would you be investing your dollars today as an investor? You know the space so well. Where do you think the opportunities are?
So obviously, there's a ton of money going into core infrastructure. So as an investor, that's probably not where I place my bets, other than the Nvidias, et cetera, on the public market. I'm seeing a lot of innovation in vertical specific applications.
What does that mean?
So take, for instance, like customer care.
Mm-hmm.
You have a handful of companies that are, if you're being unkind, are kind of wrapping the APIs of OpenAI, Gemini from Google, et cetera, and putting a nice interface on top of it. But they go much further because they're providing all of the tooling and abstractions that a business user needs in order to run their business and run harder and better than without these tools. So you can apply that same thinking to legal. There's companies like Harvey AI that are really kind of making headway in those spaces that are just solely focused on that vertical, like legal or customer care, and you can apply that across
or HR or
Exactly.
finance.
So I'm seeing less. If you have a company coming in saying we're going to AI-fy your whole company with agents at a horizontal level without that kind of vertical specialization, I'd be very skeptical. So I think we're just in the early stages of this transformation in the vertical kind of application space.
But that's a challenge that I'm sure you're called upon all the time, Andreas, to deal with. Company says to you, hey, I got an HR team that's out here trying to buy this package. I got a finance team says, oh, I love this package. And then you're the orchestrator. How do you set the rules for, we're going to have one vendor that'll do everything? Sounds, as you just said, Henry, implausible. So if there's going to be vertical specialization, how do you orchestrate it all up so you don't have spaghetti?
I think that's one of the big challenges for the road ahead, because yes, there are many great and specialized vertical solutions. The question is, just like in business already today with humans who have their own lingo, how do you get these to talk together, or to talk with each other and exchange information? Um, there are some good steps in that direction with protocols, more on the technical side. How do systems exchange information? There's a lot more to come, and it needs to be done. Also around security, are you really who you say you are, and do you really have the permissions that you claim you have to do something in my business, or to get information from some other agent? So I would say, on one hand, many of the things that we're seeing in how humans work together apply here too. But for especially medium-sized companies who are getting started on their AI journey, my advice is usually this: start with an intake process, something where you might have a web form, and you ask your team members to submit information. What is it that you're looking to do? What is the business benefit and the tangible benefits that you expect to achieve? And what is the tool that you would like to use? So we can field and scout this across the organization. And if we see that we already have a tool that does copywriting, or that does image generation, or that does proofreading and comparison and what have you, we might want to rather increase the number of licenses and subscriptions for that one rather than buy another tool. So this AI sprawl or shadow AI is something that I'm seeing more and more in organizations, as on one hand, CEOs mandate top down, you need to use AI, or else. By the way, please don't do that. I think that's difficult from a cultural point of view. But um, on the other hand, you have that bottom-up approach where employees say, "Oh yeah, I've got so much on my hands. I want to be more efficient, and I've seen this great tool here. I want to use this. Can I buy this? And I expect that it will help me save X amount of hours or dollars." So, kind of sandwich in between is where you need to sift through and sift out what are the things that are truly meaningful that we should pursue, and have a lightweight process. If it takes you 3 months to get through this, forget about it. Your employees will find ways around it. They will have bought this with their own credit card or whatnot.
Yeah.
So striking that balance between governance but not being too rigid is usually my recommendation.
I heard something very clever recently. I had lunch with a friend who runs a very big bank, and he said he's been trying to promote that his direct reports use AI more on a personal level in their businesses. And so he said, anytime you come to me with an issue, the first question I'm going to ask you is, when you queried ChatGPT or whatever preferred large language model you subscribe to, what did it tell you about this issue? What did it tell you in terms of the risk? What did it tell you in terms of your optionality? So he forces them, before you ask me the question, I want you to have done your own work in using chat. I thought that was clever.
Yep.
Are you doing that here, Henry?
I am. I do that daily. It's a kind of daily practice. So one, it's not really a hack. It's part of my workflow now. If I come up with an idea or a proposal, to your point, I don't want to bring that like half baked. And my perspective, I would consider alone would be half baked. So I actually play that through like ChatGPT 5.0 or Gemini 2.5, and I'm asking specifically, okay, red team, my logic, where are the gaps? How could I improve this? And then you take that output and you feed it into the other model and you do the same. And then between the two, you obviously, to your point, Andreas, just because you're using these tools, you're not abdicating responsibility and logical thinking. It's on me to kind of bring that together.
Seems like it accelerates it.
It accelerates it, and it gets you past that kind of blank page issue that we all have as writers or practitioners, and ultimately provides a better outcome. And I'm always continually surprised what's suggested, where the gaps are. Sometimes, ChatGPT can be a little sycophantic, and so it's like, oh, this is all great, but then it gives you the sandwich, and so it kind of lays out where there could be some shortcomings. And I just see that as a way to kind of shorten the feedback loop. It's like your personal mentor. For $20 a month with ChatGPT Plus, you have the best life coach probably you could probably have. Maybe that's an unpopular opinion, but I think it's getting to that point. And my wife jokes I talk to chat more than her, and she's probably not far wrong. And so we call it disparagingly chat around the house. She's like, "Oh, you're chatting to chat," and I'm like, "Yes."
You haven't named your chatbot yet?
I haven't yet. I'm getting there.
So if Andreas invites you to speak to his class at Westchester College in Pennsylvania, and one of the students says to you, Henry, you've been an entrepreneur, you've worked in big and small companies. How should I prepare myself for the future? Because AI is here, it's real, it's changing the world. What advice do you have for that student who raised their hand in Andreas's class?
I think the students of today and tomorrow are actually in an exciting opportunity, right? Because they have the opportunity to leapfrog all of the work that's kind of gone before to get us to this point. You know, the infrastructure, the internet, the data pipelines, etc. We're entering a new exciting era where human creativity and abilities will be supercharged, and you know, I would kind of index on those human factors that Andreas mentioned, you know, empathy, social connection, communication, and then and then also have a growth mindset. Whatever new technologies, AI developments come along, figure out how that kind of you incorporate that into your life and your day to day to make you better and either more effective or efficient, because there are opportunities abound.
All right, but I got a note today from a recent college graduate. She tells me the job market is just terrible.
Yep.
And I've heard that a dozen times in the last week or two. Andreas, what are you advising your students to do? Henry says great opportunity, but I'm looking for a little bit more practical, in the moment advice for your graduates, Andreas.
So first of all, let me answer this from the point of view of a company. I see a lot of coverage in the news. We need fewer developers. You shout that too. We need fewer computer science graduates.
Data
We need fewer
scientists.
people because, right, data scientists, what have you, because AI can do this work now.
Mm-hmm.
And I would challenge that mindset and challenge that assumption, because I'd rather go in and say, what is AI the enabler for? If we have the same number of people and they're 10x more productive, what
Mhm.
can we achieve that we're not able to do today? There's a second reason for that. If you think of your organization as a pyramid, right, of seniority and hierarchy, all of a sudden you trim the base layer of that pyramid, and it becomes a pyramid that points more
Yes.
towards the bottom.
Yep.
It means you have fewer entry level roles. Well, who's going to become senior, and how are they becoming senior in their roles and more experienced? If they use AI, but they might not get the training, they might not get the same experience that
Socialization.
people in senior roles currently have. So
Mm.
there's a big responsibility for organizations and leaders, even if they are trying to turn this more into a diamond. How do we progress our people? How do we progress their skills and their expertise?
From gratitude to comfort to birthdays. Commemorate life's important moments with something special. Find the perfect gift at Harry & David. We make it easy to be thoughtful. Now, I wonder, I've heard people talk about tutors and how an AI tutor can be so much more effective than a human tutor because it has senses, as you just reminded me, Andreas. It can be watching when your attention span moves or fades or
Yep.
you've lost attention, how it can bring you back. And then I wonder if these AI tools can help us with people with autism. You know, what breakthroughs are right around the corner in terms of helping to engage people who have that communication deficit? You know, we think we know that they're fully aware of what's going on around them, but they don't have that ability to connect it. I wonder if there's some really smart people working on technology today that'll bridge that communication gap with people with special needs, special communication needs. What kinds of things get you excited that you hope is on the horizon? Let's start with you, Henry.
Well, just what you said. I think we're ushering in a new era of hyper personalization, and how that impacts people's learning, development, and interactions in their day to day is going to be compounding and greater than we can imagine. AI applied to healthcare. I have a brother in the UK who's a doctor, and already in radiology AI is performing better than some practitioners who've been in the field for 30 plus years. So I think
And it can help those who are 30-plus year practitioners get to quicker decisions,
Yes.
use it as a counterbalance. This is what I think on a diagnosis. What else should I be thinking about? What else do I? So I think in terms of medical, I think, and 2 years ago I saw a demonstration at a conference using a Watson
Mm.
a Watson product to help a group of 200 pediatricians from around the world who would take on the toughest cases from other pediatricians where they couldn't come up with a diagnosis, and it advanced their ability to get to a diagnosis. And I'm guessing and from a memory here, maybe they were able to get to 30% diagnosis of all the cases that we referred, and using this AI tool that they demonstrated in front of us, getting them to just over 50%. That's a huge number of children that are going to be helped who
Yes,
heretofore weren't. So it sounds to me like in the medical world, it's really exciting.
absolutely. That's where I'm most optimistic.
And Andreas, what gets you excited about what might be coming? Maybe or hope is coming down the pipe.
So, I'm more of the techno pragmatist, and I love to focus on what can we do with the technology. That's been consistent throughout my career. So something that I'm personally excited about is thinking and seeing this evolve. How can we have autonomous or semi-autonomous systems that communicate with each other? Now, that sounds technical, but what I mean with that is
Mm.
we're just at the cusp of bringing more autonomy and more automation into our business with something that's called AI agents, where you delegate a goal and you say, hey, here's a goal, here's a task I want you to work on. Maybe do some market research on my competitors or some stock tickers and something, and come back with a recommendation for me. So take this forward and say there are agents that manage your procurement process.
Mhm.
On the other hand,
A
there are
place you
agents
have
that
some
manage your sales
expertise.
process. Yeah. So a sales agent of one company working with the procurement agent of another to find out
Mhm.
and figure out how can we negotiate terms while preserving our individual interests.
Mhm.
Do we have enough stock to ship earlier? Well, if we ship earlier, um, you know, would you be willing to pay a premium? Or we need 2 weeks longer because we don't have the material. We can give you a little discount, or do you have leniency and flexibility on taking the delivery? So I think there's a lot of very tangible things in businesses where there's a lot of communication, a lot of back and forth. It usually happens in emails and inboxes, where I'm super excited seeing how this future evolves, where systems between in amongst themselves can negotiate some of these things. And that just extrapolates. Think about personal productivity. How
Mhm.
many meeting invites do you get either from friends or doctor's appointments, what have you? And you always need to look at your calendar. When am I available? Maybe you have more than one calendar. So between all the different calendars, when I'm available. So having your personal assistant, some tools are already available on the market to do that. But some personal assistant that uses AI behind the scenes that says, hey, yeah, here are 3 slots. Which one works for you? And your AI agents, again, your AI assistants figure this out. All you need to say is, hey, book this meeting.
Yes.
These productivity and enhancements where we spend a lot of time ourselves, or where we,
Well,
need to
they're
align with
proximate, and
others.
you can see them, and that gets me excited too. I would imagine that at Westchester College in Pennsylvania, they practically have to have a lottery to see which students get into your class. I imagine you are Mr. Popular on campus, and that your class is oversubscribed all the time. It certainly should be, and I think I had a chance to speak with Barbara Oakley last week about her. She has the largest uh, MOOC class, MOOC class currently
Mhm.
now, and it's terrific. And I think you should too, and making Westchester College even more famous than it is, Andreas. You've been a treat to chat with. How can people, if Henry wants to get in touch with you to draw on your consulting skills, if a student wants to get access to your blog, to your podcast, what's your contact information? How do we all get in touch with you?
Sure. So I'm on LinkedIn. I post there every day about how do you bring AI into business, what's happening in that space of AI leadership in business. That's the best place to find me. like you already shared in the introduction, I'm an advisor. I help companies figure out what should our AI strategy be, what's our roadmap in with workshops and training. How do we bring our people along on the journey?
And you speak
How
all
there's
the time.
leadership handbook.
That's a good-looking cover
and
there for the AI leadership handbook that
thank
everyone
you.
should read.
It's in AI and game shows, timing is critical. Don't forget that part, right?
So it's Andreas Welsch,
and,
WELSCH on LinkedIn.
That's right, exactly. There are lots of LinkedIn learning courses that I've authored. There's 2 new ones coming out. How do you empower your team to use AI without creating AI slop? Basically, the idea behind them. Very, very timely because we're seeing more of that right now as well. So if you're looking for advice, for help, if you look to inspire your audience, please feel free to reach out to me. You also find me on my website, intelligence-briefing.com.
Intelligence-briefing.com?
That's right.
Good. And Henry Morey, I know everyone knows how to reach you. It's at 1-800-Flowers.com.
Yes. at 1-800-Flowers.com.
Pretty well known. Thanks so much to the both of you. This is a topic that's just so important. As a grandfather, I'll see grandkids over the weekend, and I'll be in their ear about, I know you're doing well in all these other classes, but what are you doing in your free time to advance your AI skills? And so they'll be hearing a lot about Andreas and Henry over the weekend. Thanks, guys. It's been a treat.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.